Welcome to, this is the first episode. Of the, I don't know if "the" should be a word, but Disturbed Faith podcast. Podcast with me. Well, my name is Tech.
Fred Green.
And so we're your hosts. And this intro's gonna be kind of rocky. I don't know. I feel like that Anchorman thing. I don't know what to do with my hands. I don't know how this works, but it's just me and Fred Green and others just having conversations. Maybe we'll sit down, we'll talk to other people, we'll interview them. Yeah. But just having conversations just all around about faith and just different things that are going on. And so with that being said, since this is the first episode, just wanted to take time to talk about what that means to have a disrupted faith and where that comes from. And just for me, what that means is, I call myself a troll. I like to troll people. I'm like a Christian troll. A good friend of mine, Al and Leah, not that you guys know them, but Leah always says that she likes when I speak because it's controversial. I don't think that that's a compliment. I feel like that's like,
Controversial tech.
Yeah, I don't know if what you said is in the Bible or if you're just making it up. But I like to troll. I'm a big troll. I just feel like we just have to ask ourselves uncomfortable questions in uncomfortable ways. And so to really gain truth, I feel like since God is real, we don't have to be afraid to ask certain questions. We can ask those questions. We don't have to be afraid of the answer. So that's basically, in a rough, bad shell, what this is about for me personally. And that is just having those conversations that maybe don't make it on Sunday or that the church isn't having. What about you, Pastor Green? And I call everybody Pastor, but Fred Green probably pretty soon is going to be a pastor.
No. I was about to say, like, you can't say Pastor Green. I'm not a pastor, okay?
Okay. Pastor Green, what does disruptive faith mean to you?
Okay. So, like I said, you kind of caught me off guard with this. Yeah, disruptive faith. But kind of on the same lines of what you illustrated, I know from me personally, one of my biggest growth moment in my faith was when I was presented with tough questions, like actually going to Bible study with you, being at Bible study with you that we used to have with Tommy, and one of the personal growths was just challenging of because I grew up in the church, and one of the biggest things that we then did in that Bible study was just challenge of why do we believe what we believe, challenging me like what, okay, I believe that, but why, and asking like tough questions that I never heard asked in the church, like, trying to think of a perfect example, but can't think of a perfect example right now, but just like tough questions that I never experienced asked to me, and that I had to have an answer for. And it made me realize, like, man, I never asked myself those questions. I never, never explored that. So it kind of challenged me to, find out what the Bible says about it myself. Why do I believe what I believe? So on that same line, so coming back to disruptive faith, I think kind of like what you were saying, I think it's important for us to ask those tough questions, have those tough questions. And because I think a lot of being genuine, authenticity comes through asking the tough question, not shying away from it, not being afraid of it, and not being afraid to say, I have no idea what to say to that. Just off the top of my head, because again, I was caught off guard with this question. But on top of my head, that's what disruptive faith means to me. Just being what's what you're used to being comfortable with being disrupted, and being challenged with the tough things.
Yeah, I think you gave a lot better answer than me. I think that's, I think keyword there is challenging. Like, I think it's, which kind of goes on to what we're talking about today, but I feel like this is the generation that kind of challenge stuff. And so you have to be able to you have to be prepared for that challenge. And so you have to be asking things for yourself. I'm sure, like, I know for me personally, I'm sure it's the same for you and for many people maybe listening. I just begin to feel like if I'm going to dedicate my life to something, like I need to know that it's real. You know what I mean? I need to know, I need to ask those challenging questions. I was just having this conversation with my wife, and we were going to a new church, and sometimes I like it about myself, but sometimes I don't. I'm like, why can't I just shut up? And I love the church is a great church, and just because of the everything that's going on in the climate today, one of the questions that were in my head was like, how does the church, just in general, like the body of Christ, deal with like rape allegations? Like, because it's not like if you're a Republican, you feel like you deal with it this way. If you're a Democrat, you feel like you deal with it that way. Yeah. And I just feel like the church is not. The church should have an opinion. It should have a voice. So I was just thinking that, and I wasn't going to say it because, I mean, they don't really know me like that yet. And so I just don't want to come off as like militant. Yeah. Because I have a bunch of black questions too. But I'll say those later. But, and so.
Maybe I should have said that.
I just want everybody to know, Fred is going to be apologizing a lot. Fred feels bad, really. This is a good, like, yin and yang.
Oh man, I will probably, but
cool. But I wasn't going to say anything. But anyway, the pastor, he looked at me. He's like, Eric, I feel like you want to ask something. And so I just asked him. I was like, and there was a light dinner. Like everybody was just asking like light questions. We just went through membership class. Everybody was just saying how great the class was because it was amazing. But that question was in my head. So
you talking about the rape question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When you call it the rape question,
well, I mean, it was at dinner.
So it was just like, it was at the end of the class. It was like a membership class. They cooked us in. Everybody was having a good time. But I was thinking that, and then he called on me.
Oh man!
And then I was like, so how does the church handle rape allegations? And then part of me felt like, man, why can't I just like be quiet? Like, why do I have to ask those things? Yeah. And he answered it real good, but like, I don't know how I got on that thing, but it was just like, sometimes I do like challenging things or just asking questions. I don't really see it as like trying to corner somebody, but it's really just trying to get information. Yeah. But, some people, they don't see it that way. So I guess you got to walk a fine line. But speaking of challenging, Pastor Green.
Okay. Fred.
What's funny is I really to never have ever just called you by your name.
You know what? You never call me Fred.
I call you Fred. It's always been Freddie Green, something.
Just hit me. Well, I never called you by your name, Tech.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But,
Yeah, I know. All right.
I don't know.
Tangent. Okay, sorry.
But I think I was about to say.
You said, speaking of challenging,
yes. Now, I thought this was shocked. Apparently, I've told you this story before. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I was looking on YouTube, and I saw this video with Lisa Gungor, and it was like megachurch pastor, which I think is a bit misleading. I don't think they were pastors of a megachurch, but anyway, it was from BuzzFeed. It said megachurch pastor leaves church and becomes atheist. And I was like, Lisa Gungor's an atheist? Long story short, I watched it and come to find out Micheal and Lisa Gungor are atheists. Now, if you don't know who Micheal and Lisa Gungor is or are, they're two prominent, like, how would you describe them, Pastor Green?
I see that's going to be a thing, Pastor Green. I would say I know them as, like worship. Well, I wouldn't say that, but songwriters. They wrote a lot of great music, beautiful things. Um, that's my care. I mean, I don't know them outside of anything else other than like the songs they've written, the CDs that they put out.
Yeah, freaking Micheal Gungor wrote "Friend of God" with Israel, which is like a huge Christian song. I am a friend of God. He called me friend. Like he wrote "Friend of God." He has like one of the most incredible underground worship CDs. Well, I think it was with the Quiet of Fire. It's called like Battlefield or something. It got like "Wrap Me in Your Arms." He wrote that. Take me to that place, Lord, to that secret place, Lord. He wrote. Did he write Rescue? I'm not sure if he wrote Rescue, but he wrote like a lot of like deep worship songs, and a lot of people really, really liked them. And it was just such a shock for me.
Me too.
To hear that, like, not that he. Some people believe God and they developed this weird like backsliding thing where God is okay with the fact that I'm backsliding.
Yeah.
To hear that he was an atheist,
that's
crazy.
That's what shocked me. Like atheists, that's like, do not, if I'm not mistaken, do not believe that God exists.
Right.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Like, how do you go from right in front of God, to being an atheist?
I was shocked when you told me.
So, I don't know. I just thought that was crazy, and then it just got me. I was really sad, actually, and I don't know why I like internalized it so much. Like I just felt like it was like my fault or something. And cause I feel like Micheal Gungor, like some people, I'm just gonna sound like a jerk. You might as well just start sounding like a jerk. Really.
Hey,
I mean, some people backslide. You be like, yeah, man, I kind of saw that coming. You know what I mean? Not that. I mean, not that you can see somebody backslide coming, but you know what I mean. It's just not. I felt like you. Okay. So many thoughts come to my head.
We here.
Like, okay, you ever see somebody break up with somebody and be like, "Oh, y'all broke up? Dang, that was a good person. You should probably get her back." I feel like that about Micheal Gungor. I feel like we lost a really good dude. He could be a jerk. I only know him through his songs. I know nothing about his life. But I was like, man, I was just really shocked and sad. But it got me thinking about why is it that so many millennials in particular, so many people our age, are starting to kind of walk away and leave the church. I saw a statistic. I'm not even going to quote it because I don't remember it, but it was a lot.
There's a lot of people.
A lot of people leaving. And then their view of, well, religion, I feel is a bad word, but religion and just the church in general is a negative view. It's not even that they think that it's not even that they think that it's not good. They think that it's hurtful. They think that it's harmful.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I just want to have a discussion about that. Like, why is it that so many people are walking away from God? Why do you think that is, Pastor Green?
Well, when you talk to me about like this was probably like one of the things that we talk about. I wanted to look at the Micheal Gungor, the same YouTube clip that you saw, just to kind of see it for myself and see where she was coming from, because like you said, it was shocking. And like atheists, that's like a whole different other side of the spectrum,
Right.
And one of the things that kind of stood out to me was, life. They went through life. They went through, if I'm not mistaken, situations with her pregnancy, and her children. She went through she mentioned that she went, I forgot what country or where she visited, but seeing the injustice with people and kind of affected how she viewed things over here. She mentioned about also, I believe it was somebody in her family who was healed from, they was believing God for healing from cancer, I believe, and they got word that that he or she, I can't remember, okay, but was healed, and then the very next, I think like the very not too long after, died in a car accident. So right after being healed, and that was one of the things that shook with Lisa Gungor, shook her faith, was that here we praying for healing, person get healed, and then they die in a car accident. Like, how do I reconcile that? How do I come to grips with that? So I think one of the things why a lot of people, leave, that was a question, right? Leave church. Is life. Life is no joke. Life could beat you up. Life could beat you down. Some tough things, and kind of going back to what we was discussing earlier on about not having the tough questions. Like I believe, like what you were saying, is that we don't have those tough questions. We don't, we give these generic answers. We give this like short Band-Aid answers to things, just because I think part of the reason, like, we don't know, we don't know the answers. Like, how do you tell somebody they was healed from cancer and then died in a car accident? Like, what do you do with that? So from that's one reason from what I picked up from that, and just looking at some other things on this, like, life kind of creates questions, like messed up stuff happens to somebody in life, and it creates this question. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that, but I think where it becomes dangerous is that when a person don't have a place to bring those questions to, or feel scared to bring those questions to where they just sit with the question and not have any tools or have any nobody to kind of walk with them through those questions. So they just sit with the question, and then I think inevitably, anybody could just kind of say, you know what, I can't figure out the answer. Well, everything I know must be, there ain't no God. So I think that's one, trying to be long-winded, but I think that's one of the reasons why, in my opinion.
I think that is true. Today, I went through like this dark YouTube wormhole of atheist videos and people going through why they stopped following God. And I think you, I guess it's different for everybody, but I think you do bring up two good points, and that is life and really questions. Like, I feel like people don't prepare you for life. I've been saying this a lot recently. And so it's like we have a false expectation of God. And because we have a false expectation of God, we have a false expectation of life. And that expectation comes with suffering. You know what I mean? Like like one of the things that and I think too, when you're dealing with somebody who has questions, it seems as though like the church doesn't like respect those questions or acknowledge that those questions are valid. And so it's like, it's no coincidence to me. Like, it's almost like, and I'm not a big fan of either political party, but like if you look at the Republicans sometimes, it's like they're so adamant about protecting the Republican or defending the Republican name that it's like or even better yet, the Pharisees. How can you be a Pharisee? You're supposed to be the one closest to God. And then he shows up right in your face and you don't recognize him. And it's like we protect Christianity so much that when somebody asks a question, we get defensive. We're like Peter with the sword, ready to cut off people. But God doesn't need you to defend him. These are probably questions that he's bringing them to. So I think, like you said, like the whole thing about questions and not really having answers, and just the false expectation of life when it comes to suffering. Like I told you earlier, yesterday we found out that my oldest son might have a heart murmur. And I don't know if it's a thing yet. We got to go see a cardiologist. But part of me for a second felt like, oh my gosh, like another thing.
Yeah.
Like, why can't it just be regular? But I had to catch myself and just be like, bruh, this is life. Like life, we feel like, and it's like no one ever told us, at least for me, there were some people that I had in my life who were older, who kept it real with me. But like, they never told you, like, dude, you going
to have some stuff.
Yeah, you're going to have some stuff. And there's no way around that. I feel like life is like a deck of cards. That, I mean, not that it's random, but like everybody experiences life. Everybody experiences challenges. When you grow up in church or in church, they teach you this doctrine. It's weird. And maybe that's something to talk about, like, how you walk across that fine line of God does have power to heal.
Yeah.
He can heal you.
Yeah.
You don't need to walk around sick.
Yeah.
But there's the reality of life. There's that both of those realities are real. God can heal you, and you will still go through things in life. Like you know, Jesus said in his world you have tribulation. But I have overcome the world. So it's like this thing of like, and not to go on, but like even Stephen Curtis Chapman. I remember, you know, he lost his daughter. His son, I think he was in tour somewhere, you know, probably leading worship doing something. And his son is driving, and his daughter comes to greet his son, and then he doesn't see her, and he backs over. Like, that made me say, God, like, how could you let that happen? And then, you know, I remember watching them on, like, they were like on the Today Show, and it was like, I remember him thanking God. It was like, not for it happening, but him saying, without God, I would not be able to get through this. And it was just such an interesting perspective, because my perspective was, God, how can you let this happen? And it is this misunderstanding of like that God will block you from everything. I mean, and but it is a tough conversation when like one of the things that Lisa Gungor referenced was like the Holocaust.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
and all the people who there and died and tortured. Like, why wouldn't God intervene? And so those are questions that I think need to be asked. Those are questions that have to be asked.
Yeah.
I will say though, a God that I fully understand is one that I made up. You know, a God that I understand everything of why he did it, when he did it, he did it this way. That's a God that I made up. Like, even, you know, Christians get a bad rap for not thinking logically, but just thinking logically. Like, if you're whatever, you don't believe that there's a God, whatever, well, just pretend with me for a second. If there was a God who created human beings, there's no way you would know how his mind works. There's no way you could even comprehend how he lets certain things happen. So, I don't know. I just think, you know, we have a misunderstanding of like suffering and different things like that.
Yeah.
Where do you think, how do we walk that line though of like, God can heal you? And just speaking about healing, right? So like, God can heal you, but, well, for some people there is no but. Does it? God can and he will. And there's, you know, it's like even hard to articulate, because it's like I'm not going to say but he won't or but he don't, but there are some people who, you know, my pastor or father in the faith, he had his first miracle that he saw was prostate cancer. So God healing somebody with prostate cancer. He got prostate cancer, but had to have surgery. Praise God, he was okay. But you know what I mean? So it's that balance of like, how do you feel like we walk that? How do you feel like we understand God doing something and God not?
I think one thing I want to say first, though, I want to highlight is that is tough. I do want to highlight and not minimize that, because I think that's one of the things that sometimes the church could do, is just not put weight on the humanity that, us in our humanity, is that's a wrestle.
Right.
That's a wrestle. Like, believe God could heal, but then, you watch death happen.
Right.
That is something that I think needs to, be, in my opinion, now these, we put our personal opinion out there on the table. I think needs to be, put more weight on, like the humanity side, like that is hard. I think a lot of people never heard that, man. Yeah, that is tough. Like when somebody wrestle with that, like it's always like a scripture, like immediately, like, oh, no, don't let your mind go there, but yeah, man, empathize with that person, really, like, because it is tough. If we're being real, like it's tough. It's tough to go through that. But how I think one way is to really, that's why it's so important to cultivate a relationship with Jesus. I think when you caught up with religion and like, I'm going to go to, like task-oriented type of things as a basis of you being this good boy or good girl Christian, I think that's not going to, in my opinion, it doesn't hold up when life happens, because it was based on do this and do that. And then life still happens to you. Then you're like, hold up. I go to church, I do this and I do this, X, Y, and Z, but this still happens. How can somebody reconcile because to a certain extent, you're kind of approaching God from this task-oriented place. But I think a relationship place is a little different, because when you was talking, I was thinking about, and that's what I love about Jesus and what I love about God, is that he didn't shy away from that. Like it's not like what we're talking about. It's not like we're saying, man, life is tough and life happens. How do we reconcile this? And then we read the scriptures and Jesus have this perfect life. No, Jesus himself experienced exactly what we're talking about. He experienced loss. He experienced pain. He experienced anguish. He personally have took it upon himself to experience these same things, to deal with and I think sometimes we minimize that and downplay it. And I think, the scriptures talks about that in all points Jesus was tempted. And so let's come to the throne of grace to find help in a time of need. And I think that is important when you cultivate that relationship with Jesus Christ. When you go through a tough time, he is the only one that could truly identify with you in that exact manner. I think it's hard to find a person to identify with you. Like, you know how you run into a person, they have kind of a similar situation, but not exactly. So it's hard to like really talk to that person, or it's hard to relate, or for that person even to try to relate to you to a certain extent. But Jesus Christ truly could relate to you in that way. And I think a lot of people don't cultivate or even realize when we talk about relationship with Jesus Christ, that's a relationship. I think it's not a deep word, just like I have a relationship with my wife. I have a relationship with you as my friend. Like there are certain principles, there are certain things that come with relationship. It's not that we don't think that deep, but when we talk about it with Jesus, it's like become like this deep thing. But no, it's cultivating a relationship with him. And I think in that, where you, in my opinion, that's where you could find how to walk that balance of God, when life happens, like you brought up about Stephen Curtis Chapman, to say, man, God got me through this, as opposed to, God, why did you do this? I think having a relationship with Jesus kind of really helps with that. It helps with that, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think like having a relationship with him, it does. And also, I just think it's just a lot, because like, even like you said, like having a perspective that God got me through this. Like a lot of us have the thing like, well, why would God let this happen? And I don't know certain things, but I know even with my own children, there's certain things that I will let them go through. Like there's certain things that as a father, you gotta go through. It's like if he had, like last year or something, he had a bully. And you gotta, it's just part of life, bruh. Like you got bullies.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? And so it's like, it's certain things that if God was always saving you out of, it's just certain things you wouldn't develop, certain things you wouldn't have. I think we have a false expectation of God and a false expectation of life. Going deeper though, all the way left. Okay.
All right.
Because I feel like these are all like just, and I feel like there's more into that we can go, and maybe we will, but like I was talking to my brother about this, and he said something that was deep.
Okay.
I was talking to him about, and maybe we'll talk about this on another episode or different podcast, but like, John MacArthur said that social justice is heresy. And so I was talking to him about that, and just as a quick backstory, I know for me being a believer, I grew up around in a multicultural church. Was it multicultural? Maybe it was a black church, but I felt like we were like a black church that was like a white church. If it doesn't make sense, the pastor was white. I grew up listening to Stephen Curtis Chapman, Michael W. Smith, Ron Canoli, even though Ron Canoli was black, but you know what I'm saying. And so, I grew up in that whole Kenneth Hagin, Kenneth Copeland. And I thought that we were all cool. I thought we were all Christians together. But, as I got older and I began to really realize, like, oh, you really don't care about me like that. You really care about ideals, definitely when it comes to like even with politics and so, and just everything's going in there. But long story short, what he said was, he said, I'm through with white evangelicalism. I think it's just I forgot the word he used, but he said, I just think it's like a distortion of the faith, just like a bunch of other things. Which I agree, right? When we say white evangelicalism, it's not white people, right? Like my pastor is white. It is a certain type of Anglo-Saxon that is more Republican than he is Christian. That is more like, it's just a certain type of convenient, like this thing is important, but this thing is not, type of Christianity. But anyway, what it got me thinking is, if white evangelicalism, and again, not all white evangelicals, but let's call them Anglo-Saxons to distinguish. Okay, if Anglo-Saxon and evangelicalism is a distortion of the gospel, and I agree with his point completely. And what I feel he meant, and what I mean by distortion of the gospel is, it is not one that is close to God's heart. It's modern day Pharisees, closer to the system of the church, but not close to God Himself. And that's beyond color. That's black, white. That's in every church. But I'm just talking about a specific type right now. So anyway, But if those are the people that gave you the gospel, how do you reconcile that? Definitely, like what I see is a lot of African American men having an issue with trusting, having an issue with just the whole concept of Christianity and Jesus. D.L. Hughley famously said, the same people who gave you nigga are the same people who gave you the Bible. And so it's like, how do you know what I mean? If the people who gave it to you are wrong, when I say gave it to you, introduced you, then how can you even trust what it is that they gave you? It is true that they used the Bible to kind of manipulate slaves and keep them in slavery. Some people feel like the Bible was written to keep, to perpetuate slavery and different things. There's certain things in the Bible, there's certain things that are not in the Bible. And so it's like, as Christians, how do we reconcile those things? Like if I introduce you to somebody and I vouch for them, and I'm like, yo, this is a good dude, but then you find out I was a snake. You might look at the people I introduced you to. Kind of
Yeah.
But what do you think about that, Pastor Green?
I think that was that's a good point. Took a turn there.
Going dark.
Yeah, going dark. Here we go. I think, and in my opinion, I think one thing that needs to be pushed more is, and again, I'm gonna sound like that guy again, but kind of what we were talking about the previous topic. I'm not in love with the word religion, like you said, because I think religions comes with a lot of stuff, and I think a lot of people look at Christianity from that spiritual religion. So it comes with to me, that's a loaded word, in my opinion. That's a loaded word where, it's about Jesus, and I think, how do I reconcile? Me personally, how I reconcile, like I grew up in the church, and one thing that kind of helps me to reconcile things is, my personal relationship with Jesus. But I'm trying to put myself in a place to where, like you said, if I have received the gospel from, and just questioning, like, okay, like definitely with all this stuff is going on these days. I think it's important not to. What I'm trying to say is, I think it's important to emphasize to not attach it. I know it's hard to do, but not to attach it to. It shouldn't stop at the person or the preacher, for lack of a better phrase. It's hard to, I know it is hard to detach, but I think it has to be, it kind of leads to the, like, discipleship. I think it kind of leads to that of just like, okay, you saved. This is what the gospel is. You saved. Okay, blah, blah, blah. But I think a lot of times it just stops right there. Now just go to church and just be a good boy or girl. And I think it just a lot of times just stops there, where it has to go deeper than that. It has to go to cultivating a relationship with Jesus Christ. So I think that's a place where someone could reconcile. Like I agree, when I see a lot of things that, I'm not big into politics, but when I see certain things going to politics, and I see, I'm gonna use the word, when I see certain pastors, and condoning and supporting certain things, it's just like, really? Like, you don't see what's wrong with that. You don't. And it's so easy to get caught up at this thing of just getting lost in that. And what kind of keeps me grounded was that, all right, I know what Jesus says about that. I know he cares about certain issues. I know how he feels about certain issues. I know this is not right. I know this is this. So it kind of for me, that's what keeps me centered is that's what keeps it.
Do you feel like you have a correct perspective on Jesus and everybody else's perspective on Jesus is wrong?
No, I don't feel like everybody else. I don't feel like everybody else's perspective is.
Sorry,
it was like a bedtime thing. I think I say it like this. I think there are certain things that are blatant and clear what Jesus stood for, who says, and in certain aspects, and since we're talking about politics, certain aspects or certain things that I see certain, when we use your term or phrase, white evangelicals stand behind and not supporting. It doesn't make sense, so I think in one respect, I think there are certain things to where, I could say, that's not right. But then I think another aspect of why, missing personal relationship, I know for me, why I say it keeps me centered, is that I think it's important to know who God is for yourself. I think it's really important to have that. But I think there's certain things, in my opinion, that I see certain things being supported or a non that's not being supported. That's not being paid attention to, that's being overlooked, that that's wrong.
I ask because it feels like the gospel is so easily manipulated. There's so many it's like, will the real Jesus Christ please stand up? Certain evangelicals, say God doesn't care about social justice. This is what he cares about. John MacArthur, who some people, I don't like most, I'm not a big John MacArthur fan. Some people love John MacArthur. So they esteem John MacArthur. It's this guy. His Jesus doesn't think that social justice is a big deal. Just Jesus says it's not a big deal. Joel Osteen's Jesus is says that, he just wants you to have your best life now. Other preachers, Jesus want your money. And so it's like other people's Jesus doesn't have a standard, doesn't care what you do. So it's like there's so many versions of Jesus, really. How do you know that your perspective on Jesus,
I get that,
is
the right one?
True.
I think it's important, and that's a big question. So I'm not going to answer it perfectly, but I would say this when you was talking, because now that you brought it out like that, I think it's so important for you to get out your box. 'Cause I think sometimes the box that you in, your culture, if you stay there, that can mold your view of who Jesus is. And speaking as a black person, speaking as a black male, even I think so many times I think that's important to get out your box, because I think that's how you could kind of get, because Jesus was not about, as far as upholding one race above another. But at the same time, racism, like your culture is important. I think there is like I know there is like a medium there, but I think so many times everyone is just in their box and in this social circle and in this.
I see what you're saying. So you're saying like more black people need the fellowship, white people
need the fellowship,
Chinese,
black people, Chinese, like all. I think
the church is segregated.
That's a great way to put it. I think that's that, because I think honestly, here we go. I think in some respects, you could say, as far as white evangelicalism, you could say the same thing about the black church.
Oh no! First of all, we're not going to just talk about the black church. We're not going to talk about the black church. We're not going to talk about black Twitter.
No,
go ahead.
I mean, but in certain ways, we can say the same thing, and I think, and I'm pretty sure I don't know of any other cultures and what, but I think we have a certain way.
We have a certain Jesus.
We have a certain Jesus, and I think that is dangerous, in my opinion. I think that is very, very dangerous if you're not open-minded enough to kind of get out of your comfort zone, and to it's almost like. No, I'm not gonna go there. But yeah, I think it's very dangerous. I think that's one of the reasons why we see a lot of what you're speaking about, white evangelical, because they grew up in this box.
Right.
They've been preached a certain type of Jesus, a certain type of thing, and anything that looks different, anything that sounds different, or that's like sounds different, like you said, what would you call it? Social
justice.
Social justice. Is like, it's weird to him. It doesn't feel comfortable. Like I don't know his life or his ministry like that in detail. But a lot of times, sometimes what you see is, it's because of how they was brought up in the box, and it's not always in a bad way. I don't think, like a purposeful way.
Right.
It's just that that's your culture. That's what you grew up with. That's what you preach. So I think it's so important. I think it's so important to get out of your box, because Jesus. I mean, really, there's going to be in heaven. There's going to be all different type of races, all different type of nations and tongues, and all different type of things. That's what it's about. One of the biggest, most important thing that happened to me, I went to a Chris Tomlin concert, and that was the first concert I've personally been to where I saw a whole bunch of different races of people at one time worshiping the Lord, worshiping God. It was like, it was very impactful for me, because I went to other concerts where it was mostly black, but it was just different to see like this big arena filled with people just crying out to God from different races, and it was because it wasn't about oh man, this person's white or this person's black. I mean, it's about, oh man, I'm crying out to Jesus,
right? And
I think right now we're in a tough spot right now, because we've been segregated as a church for such a long time that everybody has their, like you said, like their view of Jesus. And because it's been such a long time, everybody's buckled down. Nah, we've been doing this. This is the type of Jesus. Been doing this for such a long time. Like, no, this is the type of Jesus. And because it's been nobody's ever been, a lot of time has stepped outside that box. It's just like, they believe that's Jesus, And I think we all have, we're supposed to be unified. We're supposed to be a family.
Right.
It's not about race. We're supposed to be, we supposed to be a family, to come into the unity of faith. Like the Bible talks about that. It talks about, but I'm gonna shut it down here, but I would say it's really, to a certain extent, it's nothing new,
right?
Because Peter and them, they had a problem with who was it that he went? Trying to think. He had a problem with they had a problem with different races at that time too. Right. It had a problem, and God had to grow them to a point to that all things are everybody's accepted. I can't remember Cornelius,
right.
Cornelius' house, and that opened up Peter's eyes that the Spirit of God was upon them too. But that I think that was very, very, very eye opening for Peter.
You stressing me out.
Okay.
No, I mean what you're saying is absolutely true. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. You just stressing me
out. No, but I think it's nothing new to a certain extent. Samaritans, the Samaritans and the Jews and Samaritans. I mean, it's been prevalent. It's always been like this thing about races. But Jesus was always, always. He stepped outside the box. He's always integrated. I think that's the problem, is that we just stay in our box.
Yeah, well, I think that's true. We born into America is segregated, and I feel like the church has just amplified that segregation. But the reason why you're stressing me out is, it's true, man. Like, we are a family, and God loves us all. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And we say that, or I say that so generically, like, God loves us all. But, like, He really loves us. Like, He loves me the same way He loves John MacArthur.
Love him.
And I can't stand John MacArthur. Ain't nothing about him that I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Except for Jesus, I guess.
I guess.
But, like,
that was funny.
God loves John MacArthur.
Yeah, He loves him.
And so because God loves John MacArthur and God loves me, He wants us to walk together in unity.
Mm-hmm. But see, can I say something right there though?
Uh-huh.
But I think that's the point that we have a problem with, and to a certain extent, is that, like you said, like, we think, like, because we're Christians, like, it's gonna be easy to get along with that next person with a whole different culture, a whole different point of view, a whole different personality. Right. But in reality, you got family members who you disagree with, but because they're family, right, you learn how to coexist. You learn how to love. A lot of times, like, your brothers and sisters, you don't get along. You're different from your brothers and sisters. You don't get along with them. But a lot of times, it's ingrained in us because we're blood. Right. Well, it should be because we're blood. You my brother though at the end of the day. And I don't hate you. Like, I got you at the end of the day. Right. And I think that is not, sadly, in my opinion, that is not the mentality that us as a church, as a family, we don't have that. Like, oh man, you have that point of view. Oh, well, that's off. Instead of talking about it, instead of like, let's come to like a place to where we could talk about it, or come to a place, or almost like, like we don't do that. I don't think we pay enough attention on trying to do that. Right. I think that's making an effort. Yeah, me and you talk about this all the time. Like, how much do we as Christians focus on love? Uh-huh. Like how much, like, not like love because I'm supposed to love everybody, but truly love somebody. Like how much time, and it's tough.
Yeah. I can't stand John MacArthur. That's all I keep hearing while you're talking.
I was waiting because the way you introduced the John MacArthur film at the beginning, I was like, oh, he's downplaying, but it's coming out more and more when we talking about loving John MacArthur. You gotta love John MacArthur. So when he says, no, don't say it like that. Now it seems like no. But no, I think what you said is true. Like, because even he could be wrong.
Oh, he wrong. So,
but at the same time, like, there could be. I think there's a place for still love and walking alongside. Now, again, when it comes to race, and when it comes to like a lot of the climate that we in, and definitely as a Black man, like, it is tough. It is really tough to see a lot of things that I'm saying. So I'm not, again, I do want to put weight there too.
Yeah.
But I would say, I think there's something to think. That's something to think about as a church, is that we are family.
Right, we're family.
We are family, and we have to learn how to move together as family. I don't think, to a certain extent, from a cultural perspective, that we have integrated ourselves enough with each other to move together as a family.
Yeah, no, that's true.
What's your opinion, Tech?
I feel like everything you're saying is true. It is a difficult thing because, like, the reason why I can't stand John MacArthur, there's a couple reasons why I can't stand John MacArthur, which will come out piece by piece. But the current reason why I can't stand John MacArthur is, so we're talking about the issues of race, we're talking about social justice.
Yeah.
I'm black. Okay, so maybe some might feel like social justice is important to me because I'm black. But I feel like it's important to me because it was important to Jesus. Yeah. Like the way that the church treats women is wrong. It's wrong. Yeah. It's wrong. Yeah. Like the way that America was established, the way that the genocide of the Native Americans, like that's wrong. You just can't go in, take people's stuff and kill them and just be like, too bad, bruh. Yeah. Like that stuff is wrong. Yeah. And to have this convenient view, like Jesus Christ didn't care about justice. You know what I mean? Like he didn't care about mercy. But and so that makes me not stand him. Yeah. And for a brief second, and like 10, maybe 15 seconds, I hated John MacArthur in my heart. Okay. Like definitely when I first found out about this, because to me, he represents the like mascot of arrogant white evangelicalism. And even getting deeper, for me, it's personal because I felt like we were all family. Yeah, yeah. It's not trying to blame, but I feel like it's like I didn't learn that you didn't feel the same way about me until black people started dying. Then that's when I learned that you saw a difference between me and you. Yeah. That you saw a difference between what is important. I thought, I'm in there. Oh, been years of my Lord. You know what I mean? This is the stuff that I grew up on. I'm like, we are family. Then when these things arise, it's like, wait a minute, I thought that we were all one. Yeah, I thought we was together. But you bring up a good point. We still have to, I still have to, and I don't hate John MacArthur. I can say that with a clear heart. I can't stand him. Yeah. If he was a little younger, we would box. Yeah. But I still have to love him. I still have to see him as my brother, even though we may disagree. And I think it needs to be said, like some disagreements, like when Paul approached Peter and was like, to say that, "You wrong." Yep. And see, now you're about to get me on a rant, because this was let them know who you are. This is the first. Let's ease into this.
Oh, show them.
Okay, because here's the thing about that scripture and why Paul rebuked Peter in front of everybody. Paul says in Galatians, when I saw that they were not, I forgot the word that he used. I think he said upfront. They were not being upfront with like the truthfulness of the gospel. Like they had manipulated the gospel into this thing that works for them. I confronted them in front of everybody saying, how can you, a Jew, act like a Gentile? So it's like, and that's what I feel like when I hear certain people. It's like, like you said, it doesn't have to necessarily be black church. It can be, it doesn't have to be white church. It can be these preachers talking about money all the time. It's like when I see that they're not up front with the gospel, the truthfulness of the gospel, it makes you want to say something. But I think about Paul. Yeah, Paul either murdered or assisted in murdering Christians, and then those same people, for many of them, most likely, he became their leader. he had assisted in the death of their loved ones, or you know what I mean. But he ended up becoming an influential figure in the church that, at some degree, they would have to they had to forgive him of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know though.
But
I don't know.
But I think I was going to bring up that exact same point. You know, at some point, I think in that we see examples. That's why I say reading the scriptures is so important, because a lot of times it's not just like a story. Like, this is like real life dealing with real human beings. And in that example, I think one, it takes humility, because if you read through a lot of the letters of Paul, you see a man that knows what his past was, right. And you also see a man that was humbled by that, and you know, so I think, kind of going back, let's take John MacArthur and you.
See me with the hands, man. Right,
but I think it would have to take, especially somebody in as much clout as a John MacArthur, to have the humility to sit and have a conversation with Tech, and you know, in a respectful way. I know you're not going to be disrespectful to him.
I might be a little disrespectful.
You know, I don't know. But to have to sit there and put your pride to the side and have somebody basically, kind of like how Paul checked Peter. Peter could have very well looked at Paul and was just like, I walked with Jesus Christ.
Right, true.
Like, I was beside Jesus Christ. He could have very well, but he allowed Paul that place to check him.
Right.
You know, and he was checked. And I think from people in leadership, or the people who carry that, for lack of a better phrase, that mantle, I think maybe there's some humility that has to come with them to be able to sit down and to have somebody from outside that box to sit down and say, look, hey, you might got this wrong about this thing. But it would take, because we are a family at the end of the day, it would take them to be humble enough to sit down and have that conversation. Sadly, I don't see anybody there to put aside their Jesus to have a talk about what is your Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sad that we have to say their Jesus and your Jesus, because there's no multiple
versus your Jesus.
It's no multiple Jesus, you know. And I think where we will find Jesus Christ, who's sitting on the throne right now, is when we do come outside of our box and we talk to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think that for me, it's challenging. I think we've lost the pursuit of Jesus, and we've begun to develop our own Jesus. And so it's like The Sims. Like, we all have our own sim. Like, if you ever play the game Sims, you get a sim and you buy a house and you make your house all fancy. I feel like we have that same relationship with our own Jesus. Like, we got Jesus, and as we get older, we add different things to our Jesus. Maybe we get our Jesus a nice house. And so we build this convenient perspective of Jesus. And like you said, it is like a thing of like my Jesus versus your Jesus, when if we made pursuing God or pursuing Jesus our goal, and you know, whoever he is, I think we would meet there. We would meet there in the middle, which would be his heart. But I do think, though, it's just a balance, because I do think it's people like that who like John MacArthur, who somebody has to say something. I mean, like, you're tripping, and you can't tell me. I'm not gonna say you can't tell me, and I'm escalating again when we were just de-escalating. I'm back on 10, because it's like, yo, how can you tell me you know God? Straight up, like, you know what I mean? Like, how can you tell me that you know him And not that I have like this thing where I can challenge, who knows God, who doesn't. But like
it's hard to reconcile that though.
yeah,
I see what you're saying.
Like he doesn't care
Mm.
about the hurt. Now, maybe next time we'll go into a whole thing about what he said and how he said it, because he conveniently defined social justice as something that it wasn't, and then begin to attack that, and then put out to people who listen to him, hey, social justice is heresy, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, I don't know. There's no, like, this is something that God is just going to have to, I just don't, personally, I don't like injustice.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like disingenuousness.
Yeah.
And so, like, again, yes, I'm black, and we know about the relationship between black men and African Americans in America, but just freak me being black. It's just in general, like, wrong is wrong. Like the way that the church treats women is wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. And you know what I mean? Like, I learned what it's like to be a sexist from the church. The church told me that. The church told me that my wife wasn't supposed to do nothing but hold my Bibles and my highlighters and just I want to just listen to my scriptures all night. I didn't make that up. That's what the church told me a wife was. Until I found one, and she was like, I don't care about that. I mean, she loved God, but you know what I mean? It's like, nobody wants to just be your personal mental trash can. You just dump all your thoughts into, like, so I learned that from the church. But what's happening is I feel like the church, going back to the church not addressing things that it should. I feel like the church isn't addressing these things, and then the world addresses them in their own worldly way. They have a point, right? Like, the way that we treat women is wrong, but maybe the answer to that isn't marching down the street with your hoo-ha's out. Maybe that's not the answer, but your point. But I how can I argue with that when they were hurting? I didn't say anything. I ain't say nothing.
Yeah.
It was like, all this harm and there were women who were getting beat up and just treated like trash by the church. And I didn't say anything because it didn't affect me. Now they rise up and begin to defend themselves in the way that they see best.
Yeah.
And now I have an opinion about it. Now I'm like, okay, you can't do this. So I just feel like it's a lot. I guess, it's nothing that we can solve here today, but and maybe I'll go back and listen to this and be like, you know what, I need to reconcile.
But how do you? I mean, I don't know how much time we got left, but how? I guess the question becomes like, how do you? I mean, I'm thinking about it in the sense of, I mean, this is not like, even though a lot of the stuff, the climate that we're seeing because of social media is like, man, it's a lot going on now, but this is ingrained, we know the history of our country. We got racism that's ingrained. We got segregation that's been ingrained. Sadly, our church has been segregated. You got people with their ideas, for that's years. I don't know how old John MacArthur is, but I mean, that's it's a tough thing. The longer something's been around, the harder it is to want to change.
Right.
So I guess the question, I am proposing this to you, is like, where does this start? Like, how does the church, us, looking in the mirror, we need to look at ourselves. How do we? Is it too late to right the ship? Because of how long it's been going down, or like, what do we do?
I don't think it's too late. I think something I've been thinking about is, we've put into our head that everybody's a Christian. Jesus said, straight and narrow is the path and few be that find it. Jesus says most people not saved. So, everybody won't walk that walk and make those turns. But I think one thing that I've learned, so like at our new church, to become I think it's a pretty multicultural church. It's probably like 30% black, 30% white.
Okay.
Everybody else miscellaneous. So
No comment.
yeah, I mean, I just don't know. Miscellaneous. I mean, probably like 30% black, 30% white, 30%. 20% Spanish.
Okay.
And then rest miscellaneous. I don't know.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Unidentified. And so being at a multicultural church, one of the things that the pastor made us do in order to become a member is you had to eat dinner with someone who was of a different background than you.
That's good.
And so sorry, that's my night alarm. And so we had to do it. You cannot become a member of the church unless you eat dinner with somebody who's a different background, than you. And so it just helps you build those different relationships. I had dinner with a great couple. It's awesome. And so it just helps you build those relationships and
Step out the box.
You step out the box, and we have to. I think we need to get off the teams.
Yeah, I agree.
Like as Christians, we born into the politics game. So we're like, you're a Redskins fan.
Don't do this. But yes, I'm a huge Redskins fan. Don't do this.
No, I just said this is a perfect example. Redskins fans are a perfect example.
Oh, you about to do it.
Redskins have been bad for a really long time. How long have you been a Redskins fan?
Been a Redskins fan pretty much my whole life.
Okay, so remember when you first started being a Redskins fan, right?
Yes.
That team that you rooted for right now is completely different than the team now that you're still rooting for.
Well, in some aspects, but I know where you're going from.
So it's all new members.
All new members, but the same. Oh yeah. I know where you're going from. I don't want to go into the sports tangent. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So it's all new members, all new people.
Yeah.
You're still rooting for them.
Rooting for them.
And they suck. Haven't been good for a long time.
Look, they okay all right now, but we'll see.
Okay. But point is,
I got you. Sorry.
You're rooting, and it's not just you. Just use this example.
Yeah.
For a logo.
Okay.
And whoever puts on that logo,
man, they
you're root for because when it comes to sports, your dedication is to that logo. That racist logo, but that's a different.
I knew you were going to do that, but it's okay.
But your dedication is to that logo. I feel like we're Christians when it comes to politics. We do the same thing with Democrats and Republicans. It don't matter who it is. If you're a Democrat, I'm rooting for you because that's the team I'm on. Yeah. If you're a Republican, these evangelicals are tripping right now. Yeah. It don't matter. Yeah. Because you on that team. Freaking, and I'm sorry, we're coming to a landing here, but Fred is trying to get me around up.
No, hey, it's good.
Billy Graham's son. I forgot his name, Franklin Graham. God bless him. But he, when they talk about Bret Kavanagh and everything that's going on, his response and I'm paraphrasing, you can look and see, if I'm lying or citing. His response is basically like, yo, that happened a while ago. That was a long time ago.
Wow.
Billy Graham's son. Wow. It's like, hey, okay, he tried to rape that girl. Really? That was a while ago.
Wow.
But it's because we ride for these teams. So I think we need, and people do it for Democrats. Hillary's kind of shady, but don't get me started. You get people upset, you start talking about Hillary. So either way, to me, my personal opinion, they both shady. So, but we put on these logos as us versus them, and Christians, we have become ingrained in that. And so even to the point of dividing each other, we took off our Christian logo and then we put on our political logo. So I think personally, one, like you said, we need to forcefully integrate ourselves. It's amazing to me that the schools were made to forcefully integrate, but the church wasn't. I feel like we need to go all black church and force some white people in it. Or go to an all-white church and force some black people in
I agree.
And be like, oh, no, you cannot have a church and have all leadership of the same color. You cannot have a church and have all leadership same gender.
It's too many.
Like, you got to break that up. And I think those different, like, and that is because, and, you know, and maybe there's no big way to fix it. As a church as a whole, we're not really accountable to anybody but ourselves.
Nope.
So, like, back in the day, you know, they were accountable to Paul, the apostles, blah, blah, blah. And so they could take it up there. But right now, church XYZ is only accountable to...
Church XYZ.
Yeah, XYZ. Or they may join another group, but who are they accountable to? You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, I think that we need to forcefully integrate. And I think that we need to put down those jerseys of political parties and whatever it is. Maybe your jersey could be black man. Maybe your jersey could be white man. We are, like, you know, race is a big topic here. And when I talk to other people from other countries, they're like, man, why you guys so obsessed with race? And so I guess it's not, I haven't been to another, I guess it's not like that everywhere. But, you know, here we define ourselves a lot by our races. Yeah. And so I think we need to put those things down and press toward unity, you know, and unity in what unites us. And, you know, and I think if we can do that, then maybe me and John MacArthur could get together.
Hey, man, look, he might listen to this episode. It's like, hey, I'm trying to see you.
So come see me.
He's trying to see you.
Come see me in the octagon.
I don't know if you have hands though. What you gonna do?
I would never lose a job.
Hey, no, for real. I know this is. I know he's serious, but I just thought it was a couple of cards.
John MacArthur knock me out.
If he has hands and knock you out, and then tell you, it's like, hey, social is a heresy. Like after he says it. Like, say, believe that.
Jesus will come back because I'll be the end of the world. Okay? I will find him.
He might have hands on you.
John MacArthur might have hands. All right, but Pastor Green, thank you so much. Anything else you want to say?
I'll keep it short because I know we close it down, but I think I agree 100% with you. I think we need to step outside of our box as a church. I think we need to look at ourselves as a church, look at the fact that we are segregated. And I think we need to focus on love. I think we do. I think to a certain extent, when we focus on love, we look at you know, almost like that scripture, who is my neighbor? Right. And it's so easy for us to be like, oh, my neighbor is somebody that I'm identified with. But Jesus, in that example, he said, love, he purposely picked two groups of people that couldn't stand each other. True. And he said, that's your neighbor. And I think that is what we don't spend time on focusing and trying to get because it's not natural. Right. It's not natural. A lot of times we think it's like, oh, this is natural. If I come in that context, and then maybe I start thinking about that. But no, it's something that in our devotional time, in our personal time, is to work on. Like how, like right now, you got feeling a certain type of way about this person that did this in the Republican Party. How can I start praying now about my heart? Right. How can I love this person? How can I pray for this person? Even if you feel like they're the enemy, Jesus gave us no scapegoat. You know, no way of escape. Like even if I feel like this person's an enemy against me, Jesus also said, pray for the enemy. Right. You know, so like there is no reason why we should not be focused on that. So along with the unity thing, I think forcefully doing it without the context of a bit of love, like or in the context of love, I think that would be, I think that's very important too. All right. Listen.
Man, for you've been preaching all podcasts.
No, man. No, I'm not.
All right. Well, guess what? This ending is going to be just as rough as the beginning was. Couple things. If you like this, please, it actually does us a huge favor if you do two things. Subscribe. Oh, I guess three things. Subscribe, review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to it, and then leave a comment. Again, that's my sleepy time remote if you guys can hear that. But leave a comment. Let us know your perspective. What do you think about all the things that we talked about? What do you think about millennials leaving the church? What do you think about Frizz beef with John MacArthur? Just all of these.
Who will win in a fight between John MacArthur and Tech?
Let me tell you, don't give me my flesh, okay? And so just leave your comments below wherever you can. Yes, if you think that this podcast would benefit or anybody would like it, please don't hesitate to share. If you have any questions, comments, worries, fears, concerns, let me give you Fred Green's personal email. It is. Here it is. Just you can email us at Disruptive Faith Podcast at gmail.com. Or you can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook. I don't know if Twitter is up yet. And that is at Disrupted Faith Podcast. Disrupted Faith Podcast. God bless. This is awesome.
God bless you guys.
And we will see you guys later.
Boom.
Boom. I'm a Christian, Fred, man.
Amen.